Thomas Hobbes. Hobbes was an Englishman who lived at the time when his country was passing through the turmoils of a civil war. He thought that only an absolute monarchy could restore peace and order in his troubled country. He adopted the current theory of social contract in his book, Leviathan, 1951, in which he advocated the establishment of a strong and absolutist government to maintain law and order. Hobbes on the state of nature. Hobbes begins his theory with the state of nature. According to him, man was essentially selfish, egoistic and self-seeking. He did not know pity or compassion. His dealings with other men were not ruled by reason or intellect but were characterized by competition, diffidence or distrust and selfish love of power. All men were equally selfish, self-seeking, cunning, covetous, brutal and aggressive. Hobbes gives us an equally dismal description of the state of nature. It was a state of unceasing strife, a condition of war of every man against every other man, where every man is enemy to every man. Hobbes adds, the life of man was solitary, poor, nasty, brutish and short. However, Hobbes recognizes that even in the state of nature men had a sense of the laws of nature. Man enjoyed natural liberty and natural rights, one of which was the right to self-preservation, and another was to take whatever one liked. The perpetual fear and danger to life and property compelled man to make an agreement to put an end to the conditions of perpetual strife among them and establish a common authority or civil society. The contract. Hobbes mentions the exact terms on which every man entered into a mutual agreement with all others in these words: I authorize and give up my right of governing myself to this man, or to this assembly of men on this condition that thou givest up thy right to him, and authorize all his actions in like manner. The state and the sovereign. Thus the state is created. Men have completely and unconditionally surrendered their natural rights to some particular man or assembly of men, who thereby become the sovereign while the covenanting individuals become his subjects. Contract is not between the subjects and the sovereign. It is not a governmental compact and, therefore, can never be violated, no matter what the king or the ruler does. Hobbes' theory of sovereignty. On such conditions and consequences of the social contract, that Hobbes based his theory of absolute sovereignty. The sovereign alone has the power to make law, which is not a counsel but a command. The sovereign is the sole judge of what is right or wrong and what is necessary for the people to believe and what doctrines are fit to be taught to them. He has the right to make war or peace, appoint judges and officials of the state and to confer honors and give punishment as he likes. Appreciation of theory. Hobbes has exercised a great influence on political thinkers, as, for example, on the German philosopher Hegel and his own countryman, the jurist John Austin. His theory has certain merits. It is a correct theory of legal sovereignty and rights. As Pollock says, Hobbes defines legal sovereignty and legal obligation with admirable strength and precision. Moreover, Hobbes was so filled with the desire to maintain peace and order in human life that he went to the extreme of justifying despotism by an absolute king or ruler. He skillfully turned upside down the theory of social contract, which was really a theory of free consent and voluntary association, into a theory of absolute power. Defects. 1. Fear cannot alone be the basis of the state. According to Hobbes, fear is the psychological basis of the state. It was the fear of others and of immediate death which, so to say, drove the men of the natural state into a mutual agreement in civil society. But it does not appeal to common sense, as Locke said afterwards, that these men who were after all nearly equal in strength and cunning, should willingly put their necks under the heels of an absolute master with unlimited authority over them. How could the cats agree that owing to their mutual fear, they should be ruled by a lion? 2. His analysis of human nature is also unsound. Hobbes describes human nature in such dark and dismal colors that it is unreal and untrue. Man is not so inherently selfish, aggressive and self-centered, as he describes him. Man is selfish, yet he is also a social creature. He feels sympathy towards others and has altruistic tendencies. Love, sympathy and compassion are natural to him. Hobbes's view of human nature is false, because it is one-sided and incomplete. 3. Twisted meaning of the word contract. A contract is always between two parties. But Hobbes's contract was one-sided or unilateral. The sovereign is not a party to it, nor it is binding on him. 4. Hobbes is inconsistent in describing the tenets of the contract. At first he says that men completely surrendered all natural rights to the sovereign when they entered into a covenant among themselves. But subsequently he asserts that they have regained the natural right of self-preservation and self-defense. There could not be a complete surrender when something is still preserved in the contract. Even the complete surrender of rights does not appeal to common sense. The conception of the natural rights is also false. 5. Hobbes's legal theory of rights and sovereignty is also one-sided. This theory tells us that rights must be recognized by the state, but it does not inform us why and when they should receive such a recognition. Hobbes further says that law is the command of the sovereign, but this does not explain the real nature of law. Nevertheless, the juristic theory of sovereignty, rights and laws had enabled Hobbes to make the sovereign's power absolute, which was, indeed, the real purpose of his theory of social contract.